Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Pradeep, Ambassador of Change from GETI, Lucknow. And right now, you're on our disruptive education platform. On this platform, we have met with and interacted with more than 1,600 educators from India and all over the world. And this evening, we have for you Dr. Padmaja Suresh. She is the Assistant Professor, University of Silicon, Andhra, and Chairperson, Aatmalaya Academy from Bangalore and Karnataka. She is an acclaimed uh, artist of Bharatanatyam and researcher. Dr. Padmaja has been trained by prominent gurus, Guru K. Kalyan Sundaram, and her father, Sri Shakya Rajan. She holds degrees in commerce, law, diploma in choreography, a master in philosophy, and doctorate. She has performed at major dance festivals widely and was honored at the Rashtrapati Bhavan by Dr. Kalam for her efforts to teach the lesser privileged children. Padmaja has represented the ICCR besides extensive concert tours to over 32 nations. Her institution, Aatmalaya Academy, conducts workshops also at rural India. Padmaja is an author whose books deal with the esoteric study of dance. She has participated at international conferences like World Sanskrit, Parliament of Religions, and others. Dr. Padmaja is Assistant Professor at the Bharatanatyam Department, University of Silicon, Andhra, as already stated earlier. And he has won, including Karnataka, Kalashri, and Sri Shakti, Karamveer Chakra, and so on. Thank you, Dr. Padmaja, for being with us this evening. And over to you. We are very happy to have such an honored speaker with us this evening.
Satguru Nava. Thank you so much, Pradeep ji, for those kind words of introduction. And I'm very happy to participate in your most reckoned talks. That you call it as detox, disruptive talks. And I'm wondering what, as an artist, I'm going to disrupt. I think the closest meaning to this particular term that I can bring in today is the fact that generally, when you speak of education, we speak about certain concept learning with which you can lead a very uh, prosperous life if you're at the peak. Where Indian arts are concerned, and as a dancer, what I can say is prosperity here means wellness, a holistic development, which today in schools we call it as extracurricular. I say that it is a part of the curriculum. It should be an essential part of learning from the grassroots so that children in today's world, where we are always astounded by various changes on the planet itself and all kinds of new issues, they are taught how to breathe, how to eat wisely, how to have a disciplined life, and how to preserve wealth of nature, physical well being, emotional well being, more than anything, and be of value to the society, to the nation at large. So I think personally that Indian arts are the most indispensable panacea to a lot of problems that we are facing today. And my appeal in general to all the teachers out here will be to inculcate modes of teaching through the artistic forms itself. I think some schools have already started that, to take basic subjects also using the Indian artistic models. And we have to know the core essence of our art, whether it is dance or music or painting. What is unique about India is the fact that we take philosophy, we take religion, we take spirituality, we take learning, education, all of them together, and a person is supposed to develop from within into a useful and a fruitful human being at large. So that is the meaning and of Indian way of looking at education, and it's always a way in which you expand from a me or mine to we and ours. That expansive thinking comes through our Indian arts. I have a PowerPoint which I wanted to share with you all, and with that, it'll be easier to explain what I would like to present to you. So, universal essence and appeal of Indian art, the perspective of a classical dance, although it's not restricted only to dance, but being my profession, my vocation, I'm looking also from that perspective. The Indian formula, any art for that matter, is a descriptive way in which, for example, if you take a tree, the artist looks at its color, its features, its uses. Typical science would give us the dimensions, and a math would give its measure. Art is the way to enjoy, way towards a joyful living amidst a dullness which is often seen, or a stressful life, and art refines the mind. Indian classical dance and music, performing arts, have rich overtones of religion, ritual, and philosophy, but they actually travel beyond any dogma. So, just like what Sir introduced me, in spite of so much travel outside, the most important travel that happens as an artist is the travel within one's own self. India has a rich cultural tradition where the spectator also is equally important, the one who is uh, the purpose for which the art is performed. So it's getting transmitted to the people around you. in emancipatory ways. Natya is the term used for Indian dramaturgy, which covers not only dance or drama, but several artistic media. It is derived from the root nata, means to dance, indicating the nature of ancient Indian play in which rhythm and lyrical elements predominate. Realism, like we see in the typical Western way of enacting, or even in some modern cinema today, is has no place in the older traditional Indian model, because it is an idealistic way in which even there is a joy in sad tales. They say that at the end of it, you feel joyful even when you watch something where there is a tragedy that may be depicted, because it is supposed to be an impersonal way of going through that process of experiencing the same emotions that are displayed, but again transcending those limited ways, because it doesn't personally affect you. And there's a lot of demand of the spectators' imagination. This is how Indian art, taken from Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra, is meant by. The spiritual basis, Indian dramaturgy, considered to be the fifth Veda, assimilates knowledge from all our four Vedas, our proud heritage that we have. Natya Shastra lays down the foundation, theory, and practice of Indian arts, and it's approximately not less than 2,500 years up to this modern period, consistently throughout even Asia. So, despite all the historical invasions that we have had, the fact that so many of our Gurukula models of teaching Sanskrit were literally removed or pulled out of our system, we still have these arts flourishing in the nation and also worldwide, with which we are touching to the basis of spirituality in our culture. The Natya Shastra serves as a single cohesive fountainhead for all the arts, including poetry, dance, music, architecture, painting, sculpture, grammar, drama, Ayurveda, modes of medicine, philosophy, and so on. And the sage implied the elevated status of this treatise that transcends layer after layer. Why we say layer after layer is when you connect to an Indian art from the physical dimension, you move to the emotional, the imaginative, and then the cathartic. The typical Greek model stops with catharsis, but we go beyond that and go to the transcendental level. The basic foundation is the dance of Nataraja. We know that even the CERN lab has got Nataraja over there, because that image it symbolizes what quantum physics calls as the dance of the waves or the particle theory. Shiva consciousness, as per our Indian spiritual philosophical basis, and Shakti, who is the energy that vibrates this consciousness, together they dance. And the dance of matter and spirit, Shiva and Shakti, also denotes. When I say a dance, it doesn't mean only dance, it speaks about music also. There is always consciousness, energy together in the Indian typical traditional art. It depicts the threefold cycles of creation, sustenance, and absorption, and then removing the veil or the delusion of Maya, and then finally go into the liberation, the moksha. But again, the moksha is taken, the highest transcendence is taken through this very sweet, uh, aesthetic way in which one doesn't even realize, for that matter, that it is such a great exercise. Just unwinds naturally and spontaneously to reach that peak. There's a quote which says, Natat jnanam, natat shilpam, nasa vidya, nasa kala, nasa yogo, natat karma, natya isminyan na drishyate. There will be no wisdom, no learning, no art, no craft, no device, nor action that is not found within natya. And for the state of uninterrupted rasa, rasa is the term for aesthetic, bliss, aesthetic joy, something which cannot be translated per se, because one has to experience rasa. And rasa today, world over, there are a lot of departments in research, doing research on what is the rasa theory. And it is despite certain people feeling that it is there's nothing called alaukika, it is only a typical Indian traditional way of looking, which makes it understand that it is alaukik, which is beyond the so-called material or the consumer world. It is something that you have to experience, only then you will know what Bharata Muni says when he says you have to have the sweetness, taste it. He calls it rasa. And for example, when you're watching a movie and you're completely absorbed in what is happening on stage, and you're able to identify all the emotional states, because you know what is love, you know what is anger, you know what is wonder, because in your heart of hearts you would have known it, but you're discovering it through the play. So this is what makes you even more connected by that flow, what is happening in front. And that is what has developed with the model that Bharata Muni has given through Natya Shastra, stood through the ages. The resilience of Indian art is because of this real essence of it, which is based on rasa. And as I said before, even the sad tale, because there is an impersonal element in it, at the end of it, you don't go back home crying all the way. You feel happy that you have shed those tears, and you feel there is something that makes you connect to that true essence, the true real part which you have never known before. But the play has opened up that, the dance has opened up, the music has opened up. Many times there are tunes which you may not know, you may not be an erudite a musician or a listener, but that moment you feel, aha, this tune is something that I have known perhaps in my past. And that is what is called this dhwani, or the resonance which is in you, which is opened up through this. Even ugly made beautiful. What I mean is, when you're looking at a painting, it may be someone who's deformed, someone who is one of the most hated characters in our legends. But the moment you look at it, you feel, so much of beauty is there, in which, in the way in which the painter has made that ugly person look real in front of your eyes, makes you feel, such a beautiful representation of this ugly image. So this is the contradiction, that rasa is actually the sweetest, despite going through those ephemeral states. It takes it to that eternal sweetness, and that is called, in Shaivism, on which the philosophy on which all this treatises from the ancient times, medieval times, modern times, which have given us all our performing arts. Shaiva aesthetics calls this as Samvit Vishranti, where the mind is drawn from everything else, the objective identity of this is me, this is my home, this is my car, this is where I am. All those things, you are slowly reducing those identities and discovering the true self, the subjective experience within you. So this, even when you're taking, for example, any other subject, like I said, when you teach with music, it lingers for a very long time. Or you're going to make it like a dance or a fable incorporated in it, the children will not forget. They will enjoy what they're doing. They will be true representatives of what they have learned for the future also. These are some pictures taken from the dance performance, where I said there is absorption into that laya, or that supreme uh, vibration within you. Because in dance, especially, your form itself is your canvas. A painter paints in front, so there is an external object in front in which he's going to pour out his creativity. Whereas in a dancer, the form itself becomes the instrumental cause and the material cause with which you are expressing these emotions. So, as I said before, there is an expansion of mind. From this limitedness of me, we become we, one united. The space also in a theater, when we are performing, the whole space is enlivened. It is like the spectator, the stage, the artist, all three of them as entities become the individual consciousness becomes one into the generalized consciousness, which is the dynamic meditation that happens, enacting several roles. An artist or an actor in a typical Indian artistic medium travels from the third person to a second person to a first person, because you're actually joining another role. There is a parakaya pravesha, that is, you come out of the limitations of this is my physical frame, I forget that, or this is my individual constraint, I have to forget that, and I get into that character. And through that character, as I'm going on doing the various ways in which the abhinaya or expression is taught to us, the people also experience that. There may be characters whom we have never even seen or heard. We're talking about thousands and thousands of years ago, like we typically bring in the deities in front of the eyes of the audience, or the spectator is seeing in front of his eyes a deity who is generally kept only in the altar, becoming enlivened. And that is what we mean by the supreme consciousness emerging out of the actor in front of you. So there is typically a no person at the end of it. You've shed away all those personal constraints because you've gone into that character. And there are many characters sometimes you do when you're doing a solo art dancing, for example. And then you again have to negate that superimposition of a character, and you come out of the stage and you get back to your own self. It's as if you've taken a flight right up and then you descend back. And the artist and the spectator learn to participate in this blissful experience. As I said, rasa is universal, and that is the reason why Indian art is still such a great pursuit world over. It may have got diluted over the years, no doubt about it. It was a temple art, and the temple typical dancers were attacked because that was the only way in which the foreign rulers could penetrate and take hold of all that was real treasure over there, and take call it sabotage the very name of the art that it was. But then we had a complete revival of it. The good point is that it is sustained, it is continued. There is also a negative point in the sense it got so diluted that sometimes the globalization completely affects the way in which the traditional art, the sanctity of the art was supposed to be preserved. Moral lessons are also discovered through this bliss. So that is where even a child, when he looks at, for example, a play of say, Ravan and Sita and Ram, he may not have heard the entire Ramayana, but the moment he looks at the acting of Ravana and the way in which he is forced upon Sita, the child will be able to guess and say, this is the bad person, he has to be punished. So that means through this dramatic experience, even what is good, what is bad, discriminative thinking, which is latent in all of us, gets evoked. So, all the more important that we teach our children fables like, say, the Panchatantra, through which you're sure that, you say that values are generally not taught, values are caught. And it is said that a teacher, a typical teacher's private life is of public importance. So, a more spiritual a teacher is, the more valuable the education will be, and it will live for a lifetime. The next slide. Navaras, as I told you all, the nine, I touched upon bhavas and emotions. The Navaras of India, Indian dramaturgy is world over famous. The earlier text gave only 8, and the sage perhaps believed that the ninth one, which came in later added as Shantarasa, was already inherent, because unless there is Shanta or peaceful substratum, you would not be able to enact all the other changing states and then come back and settle down in that peaceful state that you are supposed to be always. And the universe is the dance of Shiva. That is the basis, which says that the macrocosmic rhythm of nature, there's a sacred geometry in nature, and the microcosm also has the sacred geometry, even the way in which we use our hands today. This can be utilized for mass communication, for even advertising, to so many ways in which you can employ the ancient treatise of Natya Shastra to the fullest. We are not even using one fraction of it today. I wish it is really becoming a very, very important inherent part of our textbooks, by which from childhood itself, all children are exposed to it. It should not be preserved only as an erudite art form or restricted to some elitist sections of society. It has to be thrown open to all. There is a therapy in it because each and every nadi, they say, the nerves are invigorated when we do these hasta mudras. Even the seven swaras, the sapta swara that Indian classical music is so much well known for, is also based on this microcosmic, the sound which emanates from each and every point in your subtle body. So we believe that what you don't see also exists. So that is the way in which we believe in the spiritual way. So the spiritual part of you, the subtle kosha, if that is purified, one great singer once remarked that if all the people in India before partition knew what is Hindustani music, we wouldn't have had this partition also. That we would have had the best neighbors around, and that kind of unifying force is there in music because you really know what you're made of. What is this? Who am I? Comes in through that musical experience, the discovery of your own self. This is a dance performance where I was using a design of the Sri Chakra, which is supposed to be the diagrammatical representation of the universe, and showing that in my performance. And the five elements in the typical Indian medicine also believes that it is not symptomatic medicine. It is medicine which makes you heal from within. It says that the five elements are within us. We know how all of them perform their different functions, the earth element, and then the digestion element with the fire, the digestive fire. Food has to be hot in India. And then the water element with your reproductive centers within you, the heart for the breathing today is such an important part that you actually get relieved of all these respiratory problems if you're able to delve into these aspects which our rishis were well known for. And then the vocal, the auditory, all of them, the elements within you, the space that gives you the sound. So we believe that in the Upanishads it said that how space got evolved into the wind, and wind became the fire then water, and then the earth. That's how the creation came. And even today, the modern science also hints at this vibration. This It all starts from the sound, and then how it's become condensed into matter. So this is what our dance also signifies. And coming to the last slide, every Indian art is symbolic of the eternal, providing wisdom of life lessons. It's a holistic celebration, and it's high time we looked at it within us and without, all over, and we all have to work together as one. Today technology is available at our fingertips. We can get much more awareness about everything, but the actual transmission that was an oral tradition from the past has to continue so that these arts are really understood for their core intrinsic value, how they can bring in true transformation. Here I've taken as Raja Ravi Verma's two paintings. What I meant by symbolism is there's always something to look within an Indian art. Even if it's in a painting, we see Saraswati goddess sitting on a rock. We see Goddess Saraswati standing on water. Of course, lotus stands for purity because they always say that lotus, the stalk is in muddy water, but the lotus, the petals are always kept above. And they say, try to be like a lotus. So then you're able to deliver the roles that you have in the world and look at it with perfect detached attachment, which was the goal of Bhagavad Gita also, which is taken by many management thinkers today, is how you're able to deliver all these different parts that you are assigned in your duties and not get carried away by all of them. See the higher vision in everything so that you become and the most important component for not only your family, which is a world university. The family model is always important. Women have a pivotal role. Women's education was to empower women and also to help in making a very beautiful society because she's the backbone. She's the one who gives the first lesson to the child, and you get better citizens. Now, here, the comparison I bring back to your attention is that Saraswati is on a rock, which is knowledge cannot move, knowledge cannot stagnate. Knowledge is, and vidya dadhati vinayam, they say. Knowledge makes you humble because the more humble you are, that's how the Gurukulam was meant to be. A guru is supposed to remove the darkness of ego and the illusion that I am doing. Only then you will learn. Only then when you empty yourself, you pick up more. You become more and more intelligent in that manner and intellectual in that manner. And then you become a very um, enlightened being who can also touch upon other lives. So Saraswati stands for that solid rock, which is knowledge and wisdom. And Lakshmi Devi, the typical Lakshmi, on the lotus, but on water, and water keeps moving. Water doesn't stay in one place. So that shows how wealth, if you look at wealth only as material, may be there with you today, may not be there, whereas knowledge is one wealth which is truly yours for a lifetime. So thank you very much. I come back to Dr. Pradeep, and if you have any questions, do type on the chat box. I'll be more than happy to share whatever I know. Thank you.
Thank you, that very revealing and in-depth talk on Indian dance and the philosophy behind it, and that too from one of the uh, great artists of the sport or the dance. So you've been to so many places all over India, all over the world. So do you explain these things to them, or you just perform?
So when I'm explaining to them, I think they're first very awed, especially the student community when I go to universities. But when I perform and I do a demonstration, even if it's just a 15-minute demonstration, they immediately catch the essence of it. And then they say, ma'am, we don't know which character that you were showing, but I felt the divine, that energy which connected me to you. So that's how our performances are all, the way they have been composed, the music, the richness, and the way we use the emotions, the facial emotions, and the hands. Immediately there is a connection with the audience. So it becomes more clear to them when they see the performance and not only a talk. So I make it as a lecture and a demonstration.
So, ma'am, do you have any chelas
Sorry,
who
sir.
are performing this? Do
My
you have
students,
any
yes.
of your students who
I
are
have
into
been
Bharatanatyam?
fortunate to take my workshops also to rural India, as you have mentioned. So we have traveled and visited a lot of government schools in remote parts of the country also. And the children have also continued to take lessons from my own team. And in the city itself, I have had a regular batch of students, and some of my older students have now established their own centers in different pockets of the world.
That must be very satisfying, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Truly, sir.
So, good evening, everybody, and see you again soon. And thank you for being with us. And thank you, Dr. Padmaja, Suresh, for that lovely talk on Bharatanatyam and theory behind Indian dance. Thank you, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much,
Good
sir.
evening.